Talking about Africa as a proud African that I am, Africa actually is a continent flowing with milk and honey, with a population of 1.4 billion people as at the year 2021, which makes up 18% of the world population. It makes up about 20% of the Earth's land mass surface and 6% of the Earth's surface in general. One thing we ought to know about Africa is that our first name isn't African but Akibolan. Our continent began to bear the name Africa around the 17th century, which actually comes from the group word Greek and Latin word, which actually means the land of the free. So, African in a nutshell, when being translated from the Greek and Latin word, actually means the land of the free. Our question I want us to ask ourselves as Africans is that what was our first name as Africans? However, our first name as African was Akabulan, which means Garden of Eden. Also, it also means Mother of Mankind. The name which actually being used by the Moors, the Carthaginians, the Ethiopians, and the Nubians. It was also used to refer to the olden Carthaginians who actually are the modern day people of Tunisia. Nutshell, before the other part of Africa were being discovered, the northern part originally were being called the Akaibolans, people of Akaibolan, which means they were not being called Africans until the 17th century. The name, however, changed from Akaibolan to Africa immediately during the 17th century after the Carthaginians, modern day Tunisia, were actually being conquered by the Romans. The first set of Africans, however, conquered other part of Africa, adding other part of Africa, regions by regions, under their control until they were actually being conquered later on. The most, however, among the oldest or early Africans which are actually being recognized to the public actually are the weirdest and the strongest empire among all other empires that have actually existed in Africa. We are talking about wealth, we are talking about education, and when we are talking about influence, those three in general, the most empire was actually the best and the strongest among them all. All these three, however, have is that the West African country actually evolved from old Kemet. That's Egypt. So we are referring to Kemet. Kemet means Egypt, that means the dark people. I don't want to use black. The dark people. Yes, the dark people of Africa. We are like black colored people of skin colored people of Africa then. So when you're talking about the Kemet back then, they are people with the dark skin origin. The original Egyptians were actually they weren't light skinned or white skinned. They are all dark skinned. So the West Africans, however, evolved from the old Kemet known as Egypt today. Other forms of history has actually disputed the fact that West Africans actually evolved from Egypt, especially the Yoruba and the Igbo history, with the Yoruba history actually saying some part of Yoruba history saying Yorubas actually evolved from Mecca, that's the Arab country, and the Hebrews will always claim to be the descendant of the Israelis. The first African map was actually created by the Moors, who actually said they were the most educated people, and this their map can actually be dated back to the 15th century. And in the map it shows details of the Nile River, some part of North Africa, up to the division of the Nile, but cannot be compared to the map we have in this modern time of ours, since the map of this modern time actually shows more accurate and adequate regions of all other parts of Africa, the countries, the borders, and the topography and landscape, compared to the old most map, we actually just show little or mostly the northern part of Africa up to the division of the line, which actually shares a border between Asia and Africa. If we're looking at what made our name to change, looking at what influenced the changing of our name was to first we be in Africa. We can also say one of those things that contributed to us being the name Africa was also the European trade missionary, the European missionaries, and also the European imperialism. So thank you very much for clicking on this video towards kindly like, kindly subscribe, and turn on your notification button to learn more about the history, the facts,